CheriArrowood from Jackson Independent. I teach 6th grade science, and then I do intervention with mathematics. But for my 6th grade science class, I decided to do a project we called Lab Rats. There it is. These are some pictures of some of my students. Our focus problem, I'm sorry I don't have the slide over here. I found that this is my 2nd year teaching science, so in 6th grade. So last year when I taught 6th grade science, I found that they had lost a lot of that excitement. I came from a 2nd grade classroom where kids are always ready to get their hands dirty, and that's all they want to do is do things. To where in 6th grade they had lost that excitement. They came in and they would lay their heads down, things like that. And then I found that they were very worried about their grades. 2nd grade, as long as you said you did a good job, they were happy. But in 6th grade, if they didn't see that grade on something, they were very worried about that. And I know a lot of that comes from parents' expectations and teachers' expectations. And they were very scared of grades. What's happening? It's showing the full screen on mine. Okay. So you all get to see my presenter slides over there. So they were very scared of grades. I actually had students saying which questions are on the test, or how will that be worded on the test. They were so worried about what was going to be on there that they weren't worried about learning the content. So with this project, I was trying to solve that problem. And I'm sorry, you'll have to watch my little one over here. So for my action, I wanted to implement more real live hands-on experiences. I wanted to make sure they had scientific labs. And I wanted to use YouTube videos. They're going to create their own YouTube videos with their science content that they're doing. A couple of roadblocks we had. One definitely was time. It takes a lot of time and I've always used iPads to record the experiments so that they can go back and look and see what happened. But with this one, they had to record purposely so that they knew they were going to make a video with that. It took a lot of time for that. And discipline. I definitely had students who, when they were given things to do, they took it a little bit to the extreme. And I'll show you in a few minutes how we came up with solutions for those. One unit of study we did was matter. That's our most recent one. One of the activities we did was called Elements of March Madness, and we did this around the time of the UK playing. And we actually had a bracket with 64 of the elements, and then each day they would go through and they would find information about each of their element. They were assigned one, and then we would eliminate each day. One team would be eliminated till we got down to our final winner, which ended up being iodine. And in that, they also got to use some of their artistic abilities. They each chose one they had to research, and they had to draw an animation of that element based on what they found out about what it was like. And then there's another one. This one found out it was used to make bullets, so there's her little grandma with a gun, and she's got her walker. Another activity we did was with mass and volume. And here they've got to use the manipulatives, the scales, and they got to use beakers and different things that they could measure. And if you'll notice in the pictures, and I noticed this as I was putting them on, those students are focused on what they're doing. They're not goofing off. They're not running around the room. Now, I had problems at first in certain activities depending on what they needed to do. We recently did one with a scale model of the universe, and we went to the gym. And there was a little bit there toward the end. At the beginning, they were all focused. They were down with their rolls of toilet paper. And I'm sorry I don't have pictures on there. That was recently. But then toward the end, they got excited because they ran out of toilet paper and didn't even have enough to show the universe. So there's a little bit of discipline there. But you're going to have to find things like that. But they were learning. They were involved. Okay, where's she got me to? So this is back on our one with mass and volume. So all those kids are focused and they're participating. This one was on, we built a density tower. They really enjoyed this one, and they destroyed all my materials. I had a gallon of milk, and I said, please don't use all that milk. I can take it home. Of course not. All those, we had a mess. But they learned about the different densities of the different liquids, and they enjoyed putting the different objects in there to see, did they sink or did they float, and they learned about what density was. I think the one that amazed them most was there was a kernel of corn, and they thought it would go to the middle, and it actually sank all the way to the bottom. And all the time these kids are doing these activities, they're using their iPads to record, and they're going to make videos with them at the end of the unit. Okay, we actually had 2 trips. We did a science field day at Robinson Forest, and then we went to Carter Caves. The first one, the science field day, we actually did before we ever got our iPads, so there wasn't any video for that. But we really liked that because each center was something different that dealt with hands-on science. This one, they were amazed with how they could look through the bottom, and I could see their eyes in the top. I took that picture, and they just couldn't believe that they could see their eyes at the top from the mirrors, the reflection. There was one center that dealt with the amount of fat content in the pops that you drank and the amounts of sugar. They thought that was quite interesting and didn't realize they were drinking so much fat and sugar in the drinks that they had. And this one was one on erosion. Then the one that you see up here, the girls in the caves, that was Carter Caves, and we were doing our rocks and minerals. And then they got to go and mine for the rocks and minerals and take some home, and we actually used those in experiments that we did when we got home. Okay, here's our video clip. I hope it works. Last time I did a video, we didn't get it to pull up, but I'm going to try. They've actually completely finished and published one YouTube video. They have the second one finished, but we don't have it published yet, and they're working on their third one. And it's not going to show you my video. While he's getting that up, what I did with my teams is my first mistake was their very first time I let them choose their team. So at first it was a little chaotic. But then when they realized, because I let them show, they did a part of it, and then they got to vote whose they wanted to put on YouTube and who got to finish it, because everybody's got put on there. Okay, so what they did is they voted on one team, the team of girls, one they're called the Science Squad is what they gave their self a name, and then they took their video and took parts of everybody's video to create one iMovie. I was really impressed with this group because I didn't have to teach them iMovie. They'd never used it. I just said, we're going to use iMovie. When you're done, I'm going to show you how to use it. Well, when they got their video clips, when they presented, it was already an iMovie. I think that's why they won it first. They already had everything there. And everybody was amazed because they were actors. And so there's one the first round. Well, the second round, they kept their same teams that they chose, and they stayed focused. And they said, we want to do the iMovie. And so they taught themselves. If they were having a problem, I would come and help them. But they basically did. This was self-generated from the students. So can I just go on with it? Okay, let me get my card so I can remember my next slide. It's all right. It happened last time, too. All right, the next slide was going to show you my program evaluation and how I actually evaluated, was it successful? I used 3 things. I used student surveys, I used an observation log, which I did, and then I did an assessment analysis from their test scores. And with the student survey, I had a graph up there. There was improvement that they saw in their understanding of science concepts. There was an improvement in the positive environment in the classroom, and there was an improvement in the excitement they felt in the classroom. The only area that I didn't see improvement was the area of were they more focused. And I think they didn't see it because they were just so involved in what they were doing. In my observation log, they went from kids wanting to go to sleep to when they walk in the door, what are we doing today? And, you know, where am I going to sit? Who am I going to sit with? Are we going to do this activity? So they were much more focused, and you saw in the pictures there weren't kids that were running around. They were doing their assignments. In my observation log, I found that students began working as a team. At the beginning, in this group, liked to argue a lot and fuss and quarrel with each other, and at the end, toward the end, I didn't see that as much. They wanted, let's get done. We want to win so we can do the final PowerPoint or the final iMovie for YouTube. And then in my assessment analysis, what I did basically was I looked at their scores, and I was scared because their scores actually dropped. Their test scores were getting lower. And when I looked at the tests themselves, what was happening was the multiple choice they were missing. The extended response, they were getting right. And usually the extended response is where I was losing all the points. So I basically sat down and had a little talk, and I said, you quit studying. You have to know the vocabulary. You have to know these type of questions, not just be able to explain to me what's happening. So my last test was right back up there, and my scores had increased. They had done much, much better. The impact it's had in my classroom, I have seen an improved in student focus. Their knowledge that they demonstrate through their extended response questions has increased, and there is a much better, positive, exciting classroom atmosphere. Something that we've found is they're no longer afraid of what the test is going to look like. They're not afraid to say, I didn't do well on that test, okay? And I'll ask them, do you know the content? Do you know what you're doing? So they're not afraid of those things anymore. Will my video play now? So try. Okay. There it is. Where's my mouse? Oh, I believe that's going to do it. All right, so these are just a few clips. It says the best of lab rats, but it's honestly what we could find real quick to put together.
Science is back, and it really does matter. So today we're going to figure out how to find the mass of an object. Mass is how much matter an object contains. So we're going to be finding the mass of this dice block. So on this scale, you're going to make sure that it's on 0 right here. And then we're just going to place it on here. And then keep on moving this until it goes back down to 0. So the dice block is 7.6 grams. Today I'm going to be weighing this can. I think it'll be about 10 grams.
They've also learned during these times that they need to make predictions, and this is why we put this clip in here. They have a lot of trouble sometimes explaining exactly what they're doing, but they do know that process. I need to predict and estimate what I think is going to happen and then check to see.
The mineral quartz has cleavage. Cleavage is when it breaks on flat sides. This is cleavage.
We'd watch videos of science
Did you know
and
quartz
Bill
is
Nye,
harder than glass?
so they're trying to be those scientists, those practice scientists.
Quartz's luster is non-metallic. Luster is how light reflects from its surface. It's also non-magnetic. The mineral quartz's streak is clear. Streak is the color of the mineral's powder. Did you know quartz is ranked 7 on the most hardness scale? But it can be scratched by diamonds, diamonds, diamonds! Minerals comedy section! Geology rocks! I really dig it! Yeah! Geologists are really down-to-earth people!
That they're doing here, they're using the dry ice. This experiment, they had each take teams, so we had a total of 14 that we videotaped, and I just decided to show you this one, but they all had to do something on matter with chemical reactions or physical changes, chemical changes, things like that. So they've worked all year, just multiple experiments, hands-on activities.